We're going live. Are we live? Hello, hello. Are we live? Are we live? Okay, let's see if we are live. Sounding everything okay? We would know. Okay, this one is going to be a short one. Let's try an experiment. Do I hear myself okay? Let me check something first. I want to close all the windows because this has happened before to me. What is this? This one is this. Okay, perfect. Make sure we're not in any other program. 1 second. Okay. What is this? Okay. These are my other pages. Perfectly. Because sometimes you have the link on the other place and you get feedback. Okay, so here we are. What's up with this? With this UnoCSS? An instant on-demand atomic engine. And if you look at it, it's very, 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 very similar to tailwind, which is, wait, how is this moving? These guys do some crazy stuff every day. It's very, very, very similar to tailwind. So what's the difference? Let's try this. If we take tailwind code, which I don't even know how they did that. Absolute bottom. That's so funny. I'm gonna put it here. What will happen? Hey, this did not work. Which is strange. I'm surprised actually. Let me take all this out. It's supposed to be this, but there's something different. Not sure why. Copy direction of the image, and I put it here. That's interesting. That didn't work. That might not be the one that's actually using this. It can't be, because I see here this not rounded. Yeah, rounded. I can't. No, I don't know what's going on. But I'm not sure this is the CSS going here. But it's okay. What I'm trying to say, we can go here to the playground. So the syntax is very similar and they're very compatible. We can go here to playground. Can you hear me okay? I hope so. We can go here to the tailwind playground. And we should get very similar results if we just take the playground. In case you don't know, this is the playground. It gives you this nice little thing with some fancy new CSS. What happens if I take this whole thing? I put it on. Can I copy all this? Hey. And of course we have to take the images and put the domain for it. that's actually pretty good. So it's just crazy. People are just so creative nowadays. It's just amazing to me. Put here, and we put it in the logo. We're basically getting the same, pretty much the same thing. Which to me, it's a bit of mind-blowing, really. I mean, Tailwind is really great for developers and for programmers especially, because you can, I'm not going to tell you why. Well, I can tell you why. For me personally, because you can change stuff right in the front end, and you don't necessarily need a designer. And designers can concentrate on usability stuff, and from the developing framework point of view, imagine you wanted to change anything, this gray to make it lighter. It's very intuitive. You just do 600 or whatever. You don't need, you want to take the font, you don't want it longer, or you want it bigger margin left. You can understand it in 5 seconds. You can, instead of you want it bigger, so you make it bigger, whatever. It's very intuitive. And so from a backend, from a programmer's point of view, what happens now is that whenever there's a change in design, it has to go to the designers, and then it goes to the guys that code the CSS, and then it goes to the programmer, and sometimes there's disconnections. Besides, when you are doing like repeating pages, for example, for a CMS or something like that, and each client or each project has a different color, different size and stuff, it gets very, very, very complicated. So the really power of Tailwind is the configuration files. One day we'll go into that. I'm not sure. Let's look at UnoCSS. It's just confusing. The first thing I like it works just like Tailwind, because it's in fact, I'll tell you a little secret. Tailwind 3 version 3 borrowed a lot of features from CSS, from Uno. Basically, the main thing it took is the just-in-time engine, the ability to, here he's printed his document. He's Anthony Fu, one of my favorite. I'm a sponsor even. One of my favorite programmers. This guy is absolutely amazing. So he wrote an article calling it "Reimagine Atomic CSS." So what is Atomic CSS? Atomic CSS is basically what Tailwind is. It's just micro classes that create, instead of having one style with a bunch of features, each feature of CSS has its own class, and then you can atomically, by units, put it in your CSS. It's a little bit like inline used to be, but of course it has some configurations. The pros, maybe he talks about this. What is let's first give a proper definition of atomic CSS. Let's read what he has to say instead of listening to me. That's probably the best advice. Okay. Atomic CSS is the approach to CSS architecture that favors small single-purpose classes. I probably don't need the classes. With names based, can't see anything. That's okay. On visual functions. So you might call it a functional CSS or CSS utility. Basically, you can say an atomic CSS framework is a collection of CSS like M0, margin 0, text red, color red. We have quite a lot of CSS frameworks, which is Tailwind CSS, the one that popularized Tailwind, Windy CSS, and many others. The background of the developer, Anthony Fu. If you don't know him, you should go meet him. He's in the Vite team member, also I think it's Next and Vue core member. So he's a very smart he's got a very nice page, and he's got some really cool stuff. Very good person to know. Okay. The problem with atomic CSS, imagine that if you have margin 1, margin 2, margin 3, margin 4, margin 6, margin 7, you end up with a huge CSS file. And you need some kind of way of making that smaller. So that's what he's going to say. I'm always getting ahead of what I'm talking about. So you have to purge it. You have to purge the CSS. At first, Tailwind was like that. It loaded all the classes in development, and when you did the production, it did a lean version of it. But the problem is that as soon as you start customizing, because the real power of atomic CSS is not this, because you can have this with anything, with inline styles. The real power comes in the configuration. We can see that later. So the interesting thing is that Tailwind used to load everything in the development, and then when you run it to production, it will do a trim. The traditional way, style CSS. He explained that a little bit. You get a CSS, and then it creates all the styles on demand. On demand, traditional, unavailable. When you purge, you get all, and then when you purge, you take okay. I think I understand this. You have all the provided CSS classes then, and then it scans everything, and then when you create new ones, because you are, imagine now I put here 7 or whatever, it might not be available because it doesn't exist in Tailwind, so I have to configure it. It's not there, and then in production, all this gets thrown away, and you're left with the production, which is smaller, which is very easy always. And then on demand, well, he's going to tell you how he did the difference. Okay, so what the configuration file, this goes pretty in deep. So what is just in time doing, what he's doing, I don't think. Okay, he puts it in here. I'll give you a brave story. What he's doing is whatever you're using is generated on demand, just in time. So if you don't use it, so when you create a playground, what happens if I open here a playground? It takes that from the cookie. That's weird. Okay. Whenever I'm doing this, it only creates. Let's see if that's true. Let's see if that's true. Let's see if that's true. We go here and we can probably get a look at the configuration file. Conf output CSS. So we've got this output CSS. So let's take all this out away. Here, and we'll just create. This is HTML. We'll just create a div. We'll put it to class. Hey, what is going on here? You just have to complete. Oh gosh. Okay, no problem. Div. Hey, that's I'm not used to that anymore. But that's okay. We will survive. It's empty. That's actually really cool. The configuration, and it's empty. Okay, that's cool. And so that's what we're saying here right now. You know, instead of providing all the CSS classes and purging it when I put it in the production, this one just does that. It's going to scan as I create the class. So technically, if I put here class background blue 100, it creates it. It creates it on demand, just as I am using it, just as you use it, as you're using this. As you're using this, it will create it. Hello world, and then I want to put text for XL, font bold. So what's the main difference? What's the main difference with Tailwind? Hey, let's try that. Tailwind 3 is pretty much the same thing here. Can I copy this? No. What is the difference between? Let's try that. I never thought of that. Take this out. It's gonna be the same. That's really cool. So what is the main difference? Let's do that. So I'm gonna put here. What happens? Just takes it as if it was a mobile device. Or okay, that's funny. I think he probably did this on purpose. Just flip it. It's the same. You say, hey, that's cool, and I'm gonna put here. And as this one also has generated classes, utilities, base components. You can just take the ones you are creating, base, because I'm not sure which one it is here. Or okay, yeah, here are the ones that are adding. It's just adding text for. Just pretty much the same thing. You know, it's adding the styles that you're using. So we're gonna put here now. Let me put here flux container. Justify flex height screen justify item centers. I never know this. No, it's item centers. And justify center. Okay, fairly easy. It created the styles. You can prettify it, which is anything as that. So that's pretty much the same thing as tailwind. So that is a very good thing, actually. Only for that, it gets a lot of positive points. But so what's the difference? Do you need UnoCSS? What's it gonna give you that tailwind is not gonna give you, or might not give you yet? Okay, here we got a good one. What happens if I put just blue? There's a big difference. If I put blue here, UnoCSS is going to take a decision for you. So what does that mean? What Anthony Fu added to UnoCSS, let me put it here. Here we go. He changed two things, which might be good or which might be bad. The first, no, I don't want this. The first thing he said was, the first thing he added was compatibility atomic, which is okay. But then he differentiated by the itches. Here it goes. For example, if you put a class that's within tailwind, tailwind will interpret it. But if it's not in tailwind will just ignore it, which is good and bad, you know. Uno, no, you can put it like that, and you can even, you know, like you can even, I think, like put here, like let's create here a div inside here. Let's create a div inside. Oh, that's just crazy. I'll create it here because I can't div, and I put it Hola mundo. If I put here, for example, class whatever background whatever, let's put red 150. Okay, and I put padding 2. This works, and this should work the same over here. Let's tidy it up because I like to tidy things. Ah, wonderful. We should actually put a higher contrast stuff, but that's okay. That works okay, but what happens if I do this? Oh, it's not capable of doing it. So you can put here P2, it will still do it. It will do P2, it would probably do P2PX, I don't know. 2PX. But it's just a lot more flexible. It takes decisions for you. And is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? Well, it's a good thing if you are working with other frameworks and stuff. But that's pretty much the same difference, you know. Yeah, it says classes that are not in Tailwind, UnoCSS can generate them. So that's basically the difference. I gotta go.